Hello, this is Dylan Owens, and I'm going to talk about crucial conversations. These are tools for talking when the stakes are high. You must have just watched that YouTube video about the very awkward performance review, and some of us can relate to the supervisor in that video. She obviously was going to have a tough time having this crucial conversation with this employee who is not meeting expectations, but um, sometimes there's some feelings and some things that get in the way of having these crucial conversations. So that's what we're going to discuss. So, what are crucial conversations? These are discussions where, of course, the stakes are high, opinions vary, and emotions can run strong. These could be day to day occurrences that affect lives, and in many cases, these are pivotal conversations whose results may be extremely significant. So, why do we have trouble with these conversations? Well, um, in our business, opinions can vary. What's best in a school, in your front office, in a central office position, that there's some different things that we face when we're having conversations about what is best for students, families, or our school or central office. Um, we try to handle the situation best we can, but oftentimes we don't do well for a few reasons. Physiologically, we're designed to handle stress in different ways, whether it's fight or flight. And most of these situations can spring up unexpectedly, and sometimes we come up with the only knee-jerk response because of the pressure on us. And the consequence of either avoiding these crucial conversations or just messing up the conversation can have a severe effect on aspects of our work here in JCPS. So, the one thing is to get prepared for a crucial conversation is to get unstuck. Um, think about what are the conversations that get you stuck. What are conversations you're not holding or not holding well, and really find out what is your style under stress. It's important that when you notice something that's not meeting your expectation, or you feel you should say something. If you have that feeling, then you probably should be saying something and having that crucial conversation with that staff member, employee that you need to speak to about their performance or an incident where you may feel a little nervous about having that conversation. But it's important that to support our work and supporting students at JCPS, that nothing's more important than make sure that we have positive learning environments and well-run systems and well-run departments throughout our school system. So uh, those come from having crucial conversations with all of our employees. It's also important to understand what your style is when you're under stress, and understanding the positives and the negatives that come with your style. So then you start, before you have this crucial conversation, start with yourself. Think about you and how you're going to handle this situation, and what are you in directly control of, and understanding what that is. And then focus on what you really want during this crucial conversation. What is the focus of it? And then, of course, refuse the fool's choice. This is not about winning or losing. It's about thinking clearly about what is best for your department, your school, classroom, students, whatever the case may be, and being focused on that goal and having a dialogue around that goal. So before this conversation happens, make sure that um, you have make it a safe place to have a dialogue. People rarely become defensive because of what you're saying. They become defensive when they no longer feel safe. And the problem sometimes is not the content of the conversation, but the condition of the conversation. So make sure that you build trust and safety with your staff. So when you do have these conversations, that it can be focused on the content and not about the condition. Uh, and also, when people feel unsafe, they can be aggressive or just completely withdraw from the conversation. So it's important that you build a safety net there for those staff members. Establishing a mutual purpose, that's for you to make sure that you are crystal clear on what you want, the goals of this conversation. So to make sure that you establish that at the beginning, and mutual respect. That's also making sure that you give voice to that employee, making sure that they understand um, what your expectations are. But then again, you also need to have that dialogue and to give them voice to let you know what they think your expectations are so that you can come to that common agreement that is focused on the goal that you want this conversation to end with. Also, make sure that you only apologize when appropriate. If you're having a difficult conversation with an employee, don't apologize for their behavior. If you're wrong, of course, apologize. But if they are wrong, don't apologize for having this conversation and don't apologize for their behavior. Um, it's important that you follow these four strategies here to make sure that nothing stands in the way of the importance of this conversation and how that conversation takes place. Make sure you understand um, your story and your focus of this conversation and stay within the dialogue. What's going to happen is there's three things that can happen. You're having a difficult conversation with an employee, and three things can happen. They become the victim and say it's not their fault. They make you the villain and say it's all your fault, or they're helpless and they say that, well, there's nothing else I can do. Um, it's important for you to steer that conversation so that you are able to keep the conversation focused on what you want the end result to be, and make sure that you are retracing. If you're moving away from that dialogue, move yourself back. If the other employee is trying to move away from that dialogue, be sure that you stay focused within that dialogue. So next is to move to action. You're going to need to get unstuck, like we mentioned earlier. The dialogue needs to happen, but decisions for next steps are very important to conclude that meeting with, so that you make this important conversation meaningful. You don't want an employee to walk out of this conversation asking what just happened, or asking what do I need to do next. It needs to be crystal clear, and it needs to be set in stone as people leave this meeting. So when you have a one-on-one meeting with an employee over something that's very critical, be crystal clear and make sure that they walk away with what they need to do and possible timeline that they need to do it within, so that you can measure that and make sure that you're following up with this employee. So in summary, the biggest piece to this is to make sure that you focus on yourself, that you stay focused and master your stories and what you want this conversation to be about. But then once you finish this crucial conversation, move to action, set it in stone, and make a plan with this employee. If you have any questions, always be sure to call one of us here in HR and contact your HR specialist. Thank you.